Welcome inside Lucas Oil Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, Chris, I guess everybody in the world now knows just exactly who number 35, Jonas Gray, is. We knew, following the Patriots in the preseason, what he was capable of, but I don't think anybody in the world thought that we would see the history, the type of running back history we saw here Sunday night. Jonas Gray, 38 carries, 199 yards, leads the Patriots to a very important 42-20 win over the Indianapolis Colts. And it's important, Chris, because now they really assume complete command of the #1 seed in the AFC and have really the destiny in their own hands.
Now, at this point, they also have a little bit of wiggle room, too. If you're looking at the AFC, if they do stumble down the stretch, if there is a loss to Green Bay or if there's a loss to San Diego, they can still sustain that and continue to hold on to the #1 seed. This was a statement game for this team. The last time the Patriots went on the road and beat a playoff team, a team that was going to the postseason, was in Denver a couple of years ago with Tim Tebow. This was a huge victory for them across the board. They played great offensively. They played great defensively. They were very solid in special teams. All three phases, they really dominated the Colts today. A really good Colts team came away with a big victory.
All right, Jonas Gray did something no other back since 1921 has done tonight, scoring 4 touchdowns in a game, rushing touchdowns, entering the game with 0 career touchdowns. It's something really amazing, something obviously that's almost once in a century. What has impressed you about Jonas Gray since taking over for Stephen Ridley?
The ability to, first of all, over the course of the year, this was a guy who was cut. At the start of the season, they brought him back on the practice squad. This was a guy who was available to all 31 other teams. The fact that a guy was able to battle through that, this is his 3rd team in as many years. He played with the Ravens, played with the Dolphins, has found a home here in New England, managed to stick with it, and managed to distinguish himself over the course of the first few games as a really solid practice squad guy. Then Stephen Ridley goes down, and we saw what we saw tonight. He's done very well over the course of the year. He has made the most of his opportunities, and he is really a great example of what you can do if you're a practice squad guy in New England. They're going to find a spot for you somewhere. We saw it tonight. He runs violently.
Yes.
You know, he runs with an edge, and I think we really saw that between the tackles. I think this team, there were some questions about where this team was going to go in the wake of the post-Stephen Ridley era. I think they got their answer today. Jonas Gray is going to be that guy that they're going to lean on down the stretch and into the postseason. When they need to have those gotta-have-it yards, he's their guy.
Do you think he's a Wally Pipp type of situation for Stephen Ridley?
Well, I think when you consider the fact that Stephen Ridley's contract is up at the end of the year, I think that certainly comes into play. I don't know where Ridley is right now in his rehab and what he's going to look like come 2015. But I think at this point, you feel pretty good about where you are with Jonas Gray in the lineup. Well,
you mentioned that the Patriots were going to find some way to get Jonas Gray into the lineup. That's exactly what Bill Belichick told us after the 42-20 victory here at Lucas Oil Stadium, is that, we were hoping to catch, get him back on our roster after the final cuts of the preseason. But once we did get him back on the team, he told us tonight that the coaching staff was pretty confident they would find running reps for him eventually sometime during this season.
Yeah, and it's worth repeating, and we wrote about it this week, the fact that the Patriots, there are questions about that running game. You lose your feature back. The last 2 Super Bowl champions have had a 1,000-yard rusher. Marshawn Lynch with the Seahawks, Ray Rice with the Ravens. You don't need a 1,000-yard rusher, but you need someone who can get you those consistent yards on the ground. Someone who can also, quite frankly, again, like we said before, get you those gotta-have-it yards in a big situation in December and January. A guy you need to turn to when it's 3rd and 2 and you can't throw the ball. He's that guy. He's become their guy. It's going to be interesting to see how he evolves going forward. And now that there's a lot of film on him, wonder if teams are going to go about trying to defending him a little bit differently, but it's certainly a great first step for him here tonight.
All right, let's talk about really the only negative of this game, and I think that was the ball management by Tom Brady, of all people. He had 18 touchdowns, 1 interception in his previous 5 games. Tonight he had those 2 awful picks in the first half, especially the one on 3rd and short at his own 19, where you figure, we looked at each other in the press box, it's going to go to Jonas Gray here, first down, move the chains. He drops back and gets picked off, and that leads to that Indianapolis touchdown before halftime. The Patriots come out of halftime, make the adjustments, march right down the field, and assume control of the game again.
They answered in the way that you want your team to answer.
A championship caliber team.
Exactly. They were able to deliver a very definitive drive, the first drive of the second half. They were able to effectively put this game out of reach. Indianapolis struggled on offense for a couple of different reasons. They really didn't run the ball with any sort of traction. They were able to throw the ball, but luck got picked off tonight, and I think that they struggled at times. They they were able to. The one thing that really impressed me about Indianapolis was they were able to utilize a lot of different options in their passing game, and I think their passing depth, their depth in terms of their overall series of pass catchers is very, very impressive. It's a very impressive group. But yeah, in the first half they were up 14-10, almost in spite of their quarterback.
All right, let's talk big picture now. The Patriots, obviously 8-2 after their 6th straight win. They are the elite team right now in the AFC.
Yeah, and right now, like we said, the AFC, the road to the Super Bowl goes through Foxborough. Now, there's a lot of football to be played between now and the end of the year. Those trips out to Green Bay, those trips out to San Diego as well. They have a home game next week against a very tough Lions team. When we started that stretch, that six-game stretch, where we sat there and said, well, if they get through it, 3-3, they're going to be pretty lucky. They're going to be able to, feel pretty good about themselves. Well, right now, I think if you're a Patriots fan, you almost get greedy. If you don't go 5-1 through that stretch, or at the very least 4-2, you have to consider a bit of a disappointment. Right now, this team is the team to beat in the AFC. Again, I want to stress the fact that there's a lot of football to be played between now and the end of December, but right now the New England Patriots are the #1 seed in the AFC.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about two things. The offensive line, that was just dominant. Jonas Gray told me after the game that, look, if it weren't for the offensive line blowing up holes and really exerting their will, I wouldn't have had the night I had.
Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting. I asked Vince Wilfork the same question just about Jonas Gray and what you saw from him. We haven't had a chance to see a lot of him. And he said, yeah, it's not just Jonas Gray, but it's the offensive line. And he said the offensive line opening those holes, it set the tone for the game. It's had a physical tone. I thought it was very interesting that we saw a lot of Cameron Fleming working as the extra tight end, adding a bit of a physical edge, adding a bit of an attitude up front. The Patriots were able to control the game on the ground as a result of their offensive line.
And Cameron Fleming, you hope he's okay. He left very late in the game with a lower leg injury. We'll monitor that in the week to come. As far as the line of scrimmage on the defensive side, the Patriots completely stifled Ahmad Bradshaw and the Colts running game.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that might be the fatal flaw of this Colts team this year. They really can't run the ball consistently. I mean, coming into this game, there were obviously questions about the Patriots and where they were when you're talking about the running game. But I think Jonas Gray effectively answered those. I don't know if the Colts did as much tonight as they really hoped to on the ground. They weren't able to move the ball at all on the ground. And I think, again, we talk about getting those gotta-have-it yards late in the season. I don't know who that guy is on the other side for Indianapolis.
All right, it's a game that, yes, Rob Gronkowski scored. Tom Brady had his touchdowns, but didn't have spectacular numbers. It was the night of Jonas Gray here at Lucas Oil Stadium as the New England Patriots roll to their 6th straight victory, 42-20 over the Andrew Luck-led Indianapolis Colts. He's Christopher Price. I'm Mike Petraglia, inside Lucas Oil Stadium, WEEI.com.